Wanted to create this video to kind of showcase in further detail the navigation and pathfinding that I have implemented for lane creeps in the MOBA that I've been working on. Now this MOBA that I'm working on it started out as an action RPG that I dubbed Project Peril. But as it turns out, an action RPG requires a lot more work than, it's gonna be at least another year or two before I have something that's actually, a playable game. So I've decided to kind of take the source code and create a MOBA out of it instead. And a MOBA is actually I've got most of the basic functionality down. I've got inventories, heroes. I've got scripted content. You can see gay balls here. That's actually the unit that you're seeing on the map here. Actually, to demonstrate that, I'll change his move speed to 12, and then I'll go ahead and reload this. You'll see that they move a lot faster. So yeah, there you have that. All of the logic behind this map is actually scripted, and I'll show you the script behind this map as well. So here you have some basic Lua setting up the class. The target name is dev world. The print name is also dev world. Monsters, that does nothing at the moment, but monsters is going to represent what monsters are capable of spawning on this map. Is procedural. This is something that was implemented for the action RPG, and this actually means if it's procedural, then it's going to generate a procedural dungeon, and the functionality is there to generate a procedural dungeon, but there's no procedural dungeons in a MOBA, so I've got that set to false just for this map. Then we got some other stuff that doesn't really do much, that's specific to the map itself. All right, so we have a start function. This calls when the map is first started, and what I'm doing here is basically inserting the spawn points that I've added on the map. It finds the entity point, spawn 10, 11, 12, etc. It pretty much caches the spawn points. And then step is called once every, let's see, how often is it called? 30 times a second, I believe, is what I have the step rate set to. So yeah, steps 30 times per second. And if elapsed time is greater than next spawn time, it goes ahead and spawns the minions. And I've got the spawn interval set to 30 seconds. And yeah, there's basically some other event functions that are called. I got my spawn minion thing, little spawn minion function here. Pretty much just spawns whatever minion you want. And yeah, that's basically it for the scripting aspect of this. There's other things that are scriptable as well. So we got an error here. That's an error that pops up from time to time. I'm still trying to debug that. Let's see, let's set the move speed back to normal. Yeah, there's other things that are scripted as well, such as abilities. All the units are scripted. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know. There's a variety of things that can be scripted. Basically, what I'm trying to do is create a very easily moddable game. That way, everything isn't just hard coded into a single game engine or a single game that it's really hard to work with and create additional content. I want it to be moddable and easy to create new content. So I put in all this extra work to create a scriptable, capabilities. But anyways, I was going on about my square grid pathfinding here. As you can see, it's kind of square and blocky, kind of like how Warcraft 3 pathfinding was. Kind of like Dota 2 is very similar. I think Dota 2 actually they do use a square grid, but it gets converted into a nav mesh later on. And the benefit of a nav mesh is actually, well, A-star pathfinding is really, really, really slow when you have a grid that looks like this. There's a shit ton of calculations that need to be done. And there are ways to optimize the A-star algorithm so that it's, you can get it to an acceptable state for such a high resolution grid. But generally, it's most efficient and best to use a nav mesh. The only downside to that is nav meshes are hard to program in, and they're pretty much just harder to work with in general. Square grids are really easy to work with. But yeah, basically what I was shooting for is like a Warcraft 3 style movement where you know, instead of unit trying to squeeze on between two other units and pushing them out of the way or whatever, he'll actually route completely around it to the grid points that are, you know, neighboring or surrounding or whatever. And that creates, you know, creates a very, it's not exactly fluid, but it is I don't know, it's I don't know how to explain it. It just creates that kind of Warcraft 3 style movement. Yeah, that's basically it for that. There is another way that local avoidance is implemented, and I actually tried to implement it myself for this, but it turns out I don't really like it that much. It's called steering. And basically, how steering works is, say this unit gets really close to these guys up here. Instead of trying to route its path around the other units, he'll actually, a vector will be generated that determines what angle the other units are at, and it'll actually just simply push them around the other units rather than, you know, it'll just kind of push them around, I guess. And that's a more modern approach to flock movement or voids or whatever, to local avoidance. But it's not always the best, you know. Sure, it looks good, it's really smooth and precise, but I don't know, some people, myself included, prefer, you know, this kind of square and blocky kind of movement. Of course, you know, if it's like a first person game, then steering is probably the way to go. But, you know, top down, I kind of like it like this. But yeah, that's basically it for this. Just wanted to show off this little feature that I've been working on. Spent a couple days on it, and I've got the combat coded in as well. As you can see, they're killing each other. There's no attack animation just yet, but I'm working on it. And yeah, that's basically it. This is the MOBA that I'm working on. If you're interested in learning more about my project, you can visit aggressivegaming.com, or you can check out my Facebook, which is facebook.com/aggressivegamingcom. No dot, just aggressivegamingcom. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope you enjoyed, and keep in touch, I guess.